remember I had a lot of atheist teachers as well in school, which would actually actively promote atheism in, for example, religious education class, which, by the way, happens. I'm not sure if it happens here in Holland, but it certainly happened in the United Kingdom.
Well, religious teaching is divided. So you got it's called levensbeschouwing. And actually, yeah, they promote atheism. But you're saying that actually the criticism made you investigate your religion more. So the criticism helped.
Yeah, I remember in science class, I explicitly remember some of the teachers were trying to undermine religion with the theory of evolution. Literally, I mean, I remember I was only 14 years old. I remember these are my authorities, right? Or 13 years old or 14, and they were talking to me and the whole class, in fact, which, because I went to a inner city school in London, which was probably one of the most diverse schools in London. So there was a lot of Muslims in that class, and they were literally kind of like doing their propaganda to all of us, right? And because they were trying to do their propaganda to us, some of us went and investigated, see, okay, let's see the claim, right? So some of them would try and use the Big Bang Theory, you know, to try and undermine the Quran and Islam. They would literally do that. They would say, look, before people used to be religious, you know, that was the claim of, you know, the medieval times, whatever. Now we realize that this is how the universe began. So it's almost as if like they're telling us that religion is wrong, right? And they're trying to undermine our principles using their subject matter.
So it's not equal, right? Because we had the same thing. Evolution was presented as some kind of truth. And then you had religion, which was another course, levensbeschouwing. And it was with hedonism and stuff like that. So it was some kind of fairy tale thing, and science was truth.
Yes, exactly. So I've had that narrative was pumped to me at a very young age. I had only a few, and by the way, this is something I've noticed. I haven't done any checks on this in terms of looking at the actual data just yet. But what I noticed is that Muslim teachers in the UK who are traditionalist Muslim usually weren't given positions in social sciences and humanities. They usually were given positions in maths, potentially, possibly science, and also IT. So where I would see Muslim teachers would be in subjects which wouldn't affect my opinion. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So for example, I had a Muslim maths teacher, but when we're discussing Pythagoras' theorem, that's not going to make the difference between me being a Muslim or a disbeliever. Just
funny, I actually also had a Muslim math teacher.
Did you have
the
that
only
as well?
Muslim I had?
You'll find that, you know, from my experience, and once again, I haven't done a big survey data on this yet, so I can't give you any exact statistics, but I've realized that humanities departments in particular, usually those who are in those departments are people with atheistic narratives, liberalized narratives.
Being portrayed as neutral.
Yeah,
right? They're neutral, so we can
that's
have
how
them
it was in the UK. So obviously, so when you're going to history or RE, religious education, and you're going also into science class, and your teacher's telling you, oh, you know, the Big Bang Theory is the new explanation for how we got into existence.
That made you research it.
So it makes me think, okay, well, what happened before the Big Bang? The question now, the philosophical question, which they wanted me to ignore, I went and did an investigation about. Yeah.
But isn't it a lot of young children, they will not do that investigation and they will just take it because you look up to your teachers. You think the school will give me something that's true.
Yes.
So if you do not have that critical mind, you will just take it as true.
Absolutely. And this is the problem, because what I found was that there was a disconnect between the Muslim community, because the Muslim community, obviously, we can't undermine the power of primary socialization. So when a child is born into a family, which is a Muslim family, that is quite a powerful thing, because they're more likely to be Muslim by virtue of the fact that they're being socialized like that. But when they go into school now and their teachers are doing that with them, usually the parent, if they're second generation in the UK context, maybe not in the US context and maybe not in Amsterdam, but because in the UK, a lot of parents are like, they don't have university education. They don't have the same level of education as the teachers in the schools do, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They might have education, but not at that level, right? So they start losing the argument, because when the child goes back home and says, well, how can you explain this? That parent cannot provide a sufficient answer which covers the doubt or solves the doubt of that particular student. So the student might then go to an imam of the masjid, right? Who once again doesn't have sufficient secular education to cope with that question. He might give you an Islamic answer, But sometimes the Islamic answer is not enough, frankly, because they've been given secular, explanations. You need to have a secular counter, right? So from that perspective, children then start to see the authority. There's a shift in authority from parents and imams and the Muslim community to teachers and scientists, professors, and Western circles. And that's you'll find when most people make a decision to actually leave the religion or to identify more with the dominant culture of society.